Hello and welcome to Cricket House Gaming. Here at Cricket House Gaming, we like to explore the gameplay of simulation games, usually through a series of Let's Plays. In this episode, we'll continue to explore the gameplay of Democracy 4. Democracy 4 is a political sim that lets you choose the role of a world leader and govern a country. If this sounds like something that you're interested in, be sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here, welcome. And be sure to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss any future episodes. Today, we are going to continue to explore our gameplay as Prime Minister of Canada. When we hit that button, we'll be entering the first term of our third year of our third term as Prime Minister of Canada. Let's see how we did. Crime is down. Resources obsolete. Global demand has fallen off for mineral extracted from our nation's mines. Better alternatives have been found to replace our resources in manufacturing processes. The only way of re-incentivizing their use is to slash prices and revenue with it. Our GDP is down at -8%. Situation imminent. Our data is showing that we have potentially bad situation bureaucracy on our hands if we do not act soon. Budget report. The international credit rating agencies rate our government as a B. This is a bad sign. It is pushing up the rate of interest we pay on our debt. We must address this. Election report. Our party, the Radical Reform Party, is getting more popular. In the last quarter, we added 559,521 new members and 152,596 new activists. Economic forecast. The global economy is doing okay. We are in neither a boom nor a bust cycle. Cabinet report. The loyalty of your ministers can best be described as trustworthy. Their effectiveness is generally considered to be adequate. Polls report. The people are indifferent to your government. We estimate getting 58% of the vote in an election. We have a 19 political capital to spend. School tax credits. A system of tax reductions and credits designed to encourage people to spend their money on private education in order to reduce their tax liability. This boosts private schooling while involving the state running schools or employing teachers, but its effect is limited to those people in society earning enough to be paying tax in the first place. This is 96% popular with the vote. Let us implement this. We're going to raise this to high and we will apply the changes. We have zero political capital to spend, and thus we are at the end of our first term of our third year of our third term as Prime Minister of Canada. Let's hit that button. We will now be entering the second term of our third year of our third term as Prime Minister of Canada. Let's see how we did. Whistleblower. There's an urgent policy question that requires your immediate attention. A Secret Service contractor has leaked several documents that shed light on the dark side of war on terror. Should we prosecute her and do everything we can to bring her to justice, or should we reform the Secret Service and stop making use of the malpractices she accuses us of? Prosecute. Even if the accusations we are facing are true, we have to protect national interests. The public might not understand why we have to rely on these methods in the war on terror, but the end justifies the means. Reform the Secret Service. The practices made public by Stacey Walker are indeed unworthy of a developed nation. We have to abstain from such methods in the future, and thank Stacey Walker for demonstrating that civil courage still exists. We are the Radical Reform Party, and thus we are going to reform the Secret Service. The Patriots are unhappy at -14%. The Liberals are happy at +6%. Foreign relations improve at +12%. Situation imminent. Our data is showing that we have a potentially bad situation. Antibiotic-resistant bacteria on our hands if we do not act soon. Budget report. The international credit rating agency rates our government as a B. This is a bad sign and is pushing up the rate of interest we pay on our debt. We must address this. Polls report. Your approval rating is disappointing. If we are to believe the polls, you would get just 39% of the vote. Election report. Our party, the Radical Reform Party, is getting more popular. In the last quarter, we added 537,798 new members and 76,828 new activists. The Citizen Alliance has about 16%. We have about 9%. We are perceived as trustworthy at +1%. We are perceived as a strong leader at +2%. We're seen as compassionate at +29%. Cabinet report. The loyalty of your ministers can best be described as trustworthy. Their effectiveness is generally considered to be adequate. We have 17 political capital to spend, and we do have a strain of bacteria that are resistant to antibiotics, and I did see something in our policies that had to do with that. Antibiotics ban. Ranchers and farmers have been feeding antibiotics to livestock ever since they discovered decades ago that small doses of antibiotics administered daily make most animals gain additional weight, although conclusive evidence directly linked the usage of drugs in food animals to increase in drug-resistant bacteria has not been uncovered. A number of recent studies suggesting such a link concerns many scientists. Banning antibiotics leads to a decreased meat production, but but ensures consumer safety. This will improve the health of our nations. The farmers will go down, the farmer membership will be reduced, farmer income will be reduced, capitalists will be reduced, the food price will be increased, but the environmentalists will be increased. This is only 4% popular with the vote, but we're going to implement this because if bacteria is resistant to antibiotics, we're going to have a health crisis. We are going to go all the way to the end with this to maximum. This is going to increase the food price, but we are going to imply the changes. We have 5 political capital to spend. Plastic waste is a major concern among environmentalists due to the very long time that waste plastic can remain in our ecosystem. A tax on plastic production ensures that the environmentally friendly alternatives are chosen instead when suitable. This is 100% popular with the vote. We are trying to reduce our environmental protests in our country. We will use 4 political capital in this. It will raise roughly over $1.5 billion. Let us apply the changes. We have 1 political capital remaining. We'll put our last political capital into recycling. Supporters of recycling argue that dumping waste in landfills just isn't a long-term solution, and the government needs to show the way by providing facilities to recycle as many waste materials as possible. This might include recycling newspapers, cardboard, bottles, and even some plastics. This is 100% popular with the vote. Hopefully this will address some of our environmental protests. Limited doorstep collection, and we will apply the changes. We have a 0 political capital to spend, and thus we are at the end of our second term of our third year of our third term as Prime Minister of Canada. Let's hit that button. We will now be entering the third term of our third year of our third term as Prime Minister of Canada. Let's see how we did. The GDP is down. Internet tracking. There is an urgent policy question that requires your immediate attention. The increasing capability of large corporations to use customer databases and big data to analyze consumer behavior has led to concerns about privacy. Companies insisting that such data is anonymous in many cases and is being used purely to provide a better service, whereas campaigners suggest big faceless corporations are creating Big Brother-style databases of consumers without their consent. Ban tracking. This sort of behavior is nothing short of creepy, as well as posing a potential risk of identity theft for consumers. Companies have managed well enough all these years without tracking and storing information on every single decision a customer makes and can easily get by without it. People have the right to buy things without effectively being followed by digital spies wherever they go. Allow tracking. Opponents of internet tracking make it sound far more sinister than it is. All we're talking about is allowing companies to record accurate information on consumer preferences so they can make better products and target their advertising effectively, something that is harmless and is also essential to modern economy. There is no real cry for the government to intervene here. Warn users. Banning tracking goes too far, but it's important that citizens are aware when they are being tracked. Maybe a system of convenient pop-up windows when visiting a website that tells the people they are being tracked is the best solution for everybody. We are not going to ban tracking outright. We are not going to allow tracking outright. We are going to warn the users. The capitalists are happy at plus 2%. The GDP increases at plus 1%. To report, the International Credit Rating Agency rates our government as a B. This is a bad sign. It is pushing up the rate of interest we pay on our debt. We must address this. Economic forecast. The global economy is in a recession, and this is having a negative effect on our GDP. Cabinet report. The loyalty of your ministers can best be described as trustworthy. Their effectiveness is generally considered to be adequate. Polls report. People are indifferent to your government. We estimate getting 50% of the vote in an election. We have 18 political capital to spend. Technology. A general index of the level of technological sophistication of a country, including the percentage of citizens with internet access and high-speed broadband, as well as technological understanding of students and the capabilities of industry. A high technological index boosts international competitiveness. Tax incentives may be required to attract high-tech industry. We just recently had a problem where some of our mineral exports were not needed. Rare earth metal mining is something that is needed to make semiconductors. Rare earth metal mining support national incentives for rare earth metal mining in order to make the country's industrial and high-tech production less dependent on imports from foreign countries. The extraction process is not good for the environment, but our technological advancement depends on rare earth metals. Environmentalists are furious, but the popularity with the voters is 92%. We're going to use 10 political capital for this. It will improve the productivity in our country, the technology in our country, and the capitalists will be happy. The environmentalists, however, will be very unhappy. Let us apply the changes. We have 8 political capital to spend. Electric car initiative. The introduction of standardized nationwide recharging systems for electric cars has led to increased sales of such vehicles. Encouraging the acquisition of electric cars reduces our country's dependence on oil. Environmentalists are happy about every car that does not emit carbon dioxide. This is 100% popular with the vote. This will reduce our demand on oil. This will improve our environment. We'll put 2 political capital in this, and we will ban gas-powered cars. We will apply the changes. We have 6 political capital to spend. Carbon capture and storage, a variety of engineering solutions on capturing carbon dioxide emission to reduce climate change, from direct air capture to methods involving capture at the source from existing fossil fuel power stations. This is 100% popular with the vote. This will lower our CO2 emissions, and this will make the environmentalists happy. Let us use 3 political capital and go all the way to the end to maximum. Let us apply the changes. We have 3 political capital to spend. Organic farming subsidies. Supporters of organic farming say the state should subsidize this method of farming because perceived health benefits of food without artificial flavorings and additives. Naturally, this is popular with the farmers and environmentalists, but some people see it as a pointless distortion of what should be a free market. This is 37% popular with the vote. This will lower food prices. We will use 3 political capital and we will apply the changes. We have 0 political capital to spend, and thus we are at the end of the 3rd term of our 3rd year of our 3rd term as Prime Minister of Canada. Let's hit that button. We will now be entering the 4th term of our 3rd year of our 3rd term as Prime Minister of Canada. Let's see how we did. Carpool rape scandal. The largest ride-sharing company operating in the country are systematically suppressing rape allegations made against their drivers. Investigative journalists found evidence of hundreds of reports made by passengers that support workers were told not to report to law enforcement. Startup technology companies have so few staff, basic safety protocols are being ignored in sectors they are disrupting. The Liberals are down at -12%. Everyone is unhappy at -12%. Situation imminent. Our data is showing that we have a potentially bad situation, bureaucracy on our hands if we do not act soon. Budget report. The International Credit Rating Agency rates our government as a B. This is a bad sign and is pushing up the rate of interest we pay on our debt. We must address this. Election report. Our party, the Radical Reform Party, is getting more popular. In the last quarter, we added 234,128 new members and 52,028 new activists. Economic forecast. The global economy is in a recession and this is having a negative effect on our GDP. Cabinet report. The loyalty of your ministers can best be described as fanatical. Their effectiveness is generally considered to be fair. Polls report. The people are indifferent to your government. We estimate getting 51% of the vote in an election. We have 18 political capital to spend. We are still working on environmental protests. We are working on a gig economy. We are working on obesity, and we are working on respiratory disease. I just can't seem to get this respiratory disease to go down. Tobacco tax. Despite the failure of tobacco companies to admit it, there is a good reason to believe that smoking has a negative effect on health. This is used as a justification for taxing tobacco. Cynics point out that the government benefits hugely from a tax on a product is supposedly against. Health campaigners encourage tax as a way to encourage a more healthy population. This is 0% popular with the vote. We are going to use 16 political capital and we are going to raise tobacco tax to 66%. This will greatly reduce tobacco use. This will raise over $1 billion. Let us apply the changes. We have 2 political capital to spend. Science funding. In some countries, the majority of research is being funded by private state-sponsored science can be useful for investing in many long-term research projects and those that may not be commercially rewarding. The benefits of state sector research are freely available to the entire population rather than patented by corporations. This is 100% popular with the vote. This will increase our GDP. This will increase technology. This will increase energy efficiency. This will help to increase the private space industry. Private space industry helps the stability of our country. Let us use 2 political capital, invest in particle accelerators. Let us apply the changes. We have 0 political capital to spend, and thus we are at the end of our 4th term of our 3rd year of our 3rd term as Prime Minister of Canada. And thus we are at the end of this episode. Thank you so much for stopping by our Cricket House. If you like what you saw, be sure to give us a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you want to follow our future episodes. It really helps us out. Have a great week. See you soon.